Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to Phil's Recap and Review. This is going to be for The Sopranos, Season 3, Episode 9, The Telltale Moozadell, or Mozzarella, or whatever the hell the way you pronounce it. Moozadell. Now, this is another Sopranos episode written by Michael Imperioli. I think it's the second of 5 he wrote. And it is a Season 3, Episode 9 episode. And it begs the question...
He did write the worst episode of all time, but we don't need to get into that.
Yeah, we'll get into that later. But this episode asks one simple question. Maybe he's not the main focus. There's a lot of stuff that happens in this episode, but I do want to put out the main question here right at the beginning to those of you watching live with us and watching later to put in the comment section, just how dumb is Jackie Jr.? This episode might not be fully focused on Jackie Jr., but there's certain things he does in this episode that I think takes the Jackie Jr. we've seen up until this point just being kind of a shit sickle, making dumb mistakes and being kind of stupid and, you know, being whatever, a general meathead, to this episode when he's making suicidally stupid mistakes, where he just basically is as dumb. We got Saul Goodman that says dumber than Georgie. I can't wait to get to Season 4, Episode 1, by the way, Matt. Oh, my God. With our Who's Meaner, the Georgie, Ralphie, or Tony? I was watching, I snuck ahead a little bit, as I usually do with Sopranos when we're watching stuff. And I watched Season 4, Episode 1, which we'll talk about later. Oh, my God. Tony's so horrible to poor frickin' Georgie.
He's not. It's fine.
we got the live chat. We got AK in the live chat. We got Jake Cruz and we got Saul Goodman right now. Hopefully we'll have some other people bouncing in and out throughout the evening joining us for this particular episode of The Sopranos. So if you want to watch this with us, you can. We're going to be watching it on HBO Max, but you can watch it anywhere, whether it be Amazon. If you actually have DVDs, does anyone still buy DVDs? I almost feel bad for some people that bought DVDs during a certain age, and you spent like $400 on a box set,
and then probably went and rebought them on Blu-ray like at one point. And
yes, I like to have physical media too, but the price difference. I'm such a poor ass bastard that to think about I remember initially like when we were kids when DVD box sets would come out, you could get like the whole Soprano set for $500 or something. It was, and I want to say it was something like that. I might be exaggerating a little bit. And now, of course, you can just watch it all for $9.99 a month or something. What's up? Yes, thank you, Jake Cruz. Fredo level of dumbness. And we are going to make some references tonight to The Godfather. So if you haven't seen The Godfather, I don't know if Matt's actually even seen The Godfather, but if you haven't seen The Godfather, I'm going to be making a couple of references to Michael Corleone. Basically because Jackie Jr. is doing his best Michael Corleone at the end of the episode. He puts his hand, whenever you see someone in a mafia situation put their hand on the side of their head like this, like, tell me what you're saying. That's very Corleone. Even when he says the thing about, have you heard of my father? It's all like, have you heard of Don Corleone? And then he even says, oh, the truth will come to you later the truth will be dictated to you later. Everything's not clear right now, whatever he says. And that's also, I want to say, is just a straight up line from The Godfather.
And also, Phil, I want to call a little bullshit on something you've said before.
Please.
Okay, and that's how this is going to start tonight.
Oh, you can call me on my bullshit here.
You have made reference in the last few weeks as it's become, unfortunately, slowly more Jackie Jr. centric. You have made the comment that he's not necessarily a bad actor, but that it was just written poorly and the character was developed poorly. Nope. He's a terrible actor. This is the first episode where you just see what an awful actor this kid is.
And I almost was going to title this episode, Matt, because it's a good point, because then we get more of the him and AJ stuff comparatively. It's almost in this episode before we started, or when I was thinking about titling this, what my weird title would be for the episode as I put this little, like the little subtitles, was Who's Dumber, AJ or Jackie Jr.? I think Jackie Jr. is dumber. I think he's, or more stupid. Is it stupider? I know stupider is not a word.
In this case here, I mean, he's a freshman in high school. I mean,
but no, if we're thinking endgame AJ, long hair, dummy, puts the bag over his head to try to hang himself, and then goes in the pool that he's too tall for, tries to shoot Junior, tries to stab Junior, drops the knife. That AJ versus this Jackie Jr. Who is actually dumber? I mean, it's a question we need to think about going forward. We don't have to answer that question right now, but it is a question to put out there. Who is a dumber human being? Not better, worse actor, not poorly written, most poorly written character. Which human in Soprano world is dumber, AJ or Jackie Jr.?
AJ at least like tries to educate himself later on, and
I say Jackie
it's so
Jr.
hard to tell because AJ doesn't have any insight into like this world. They just assume he does. Like I think, Jackie Jr. does a little bit. So
Yeah, Jackie Jr. is old enough at this point. Again, I want to take age out of it because I think they're about the same age at the end. So I would say that Jackie Jr. is more egocentric, has more ignorance than AJ. Intelligence is different, but he's definitely more ignorant.
I'm going to use a very politically incorrect term here. He's a Guido. Like, that's who he is. AJ's not. AJ, you wouldn't know. If you met AJ on the outside, like, you just walk up to AJ. He's wearing his Pantera shirt. He's got his Letterman jacket on with the freaking captain on it. You don't know, looking at him, that there's a good chance he's in the mafia, okay? Or that his dad runs North Jersey, all right? If you meet AJ on the street, Jackie Jr. in the street, your first thoughts is, wow, this is like Jersey Shore.
Yeah, I was just going to say, he could be an extra. He could have made it in there instead of Vinny. Whereas, I'm sorry, now I actually know Jersey Shore guys' names. Like Jackie Jr. could have been on the Jersey Shore.
Yeah, like AJ doesn't come across that way. If you didn't know AJ's background, if he just showed up at your house, like you wouldn't know that's what his thing is. So I don't know what that's actually saying about their intelligence.
Speaking of saying stuff, we got Saul Goodman, who thank you.
I know, it's awful.
Saul says Matt was so annoyed he had to say anything remotely positive about AJ. Did you see the look on Matt's face? He was like, oh, I don't know.
I'm not, but that's who the conversation is. Like, it has to get involved with someone as bad as Jackie Jr. for me to want to say something positive about AJ. AJ's way more annoying at the end.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. I would say, but I think
I don't want to I want to punch AJ for the entire series.
But I don't think AJ would do a bunch of meth and rob a card game that his dad was running. Or his stepdad was running if he was in Jackie's position. I don't think AJ would pretend to have more control and pull in the mafia than he actually does. Talk shit to a made man in the way he talks shit to Christopher today in this episode, or Ralphie at different times. I don't think AJ will make all of those kind of mistakes. We got the live motherfucking chat. We got C Bing 47, which is a newer name in here. I don't know if Bing as in Bada Bing. Jackie Jr. was a lost soul, too dumb for Rutgers, and living in Jackie Sr.'s shadow. And maybe that sort of shadow caused him to make stupid mistakes and work outside of his own circle of what he has, where AJ, I think, is more overtly aware of his own limitations. I think Jackie doesn't quite, because of that reason, because I think you make a great point there, Sebang, that I think because of his upbringing, because of the way that, in my mind, Jackie Sr. said he wanted to keep him away from that business, but didn't really separate it in as concrete of a way as Tony tried and Carmela tried, because Rosalie probably wasn't as like, no, our kids are staying out of this, as Carmela was.
She brought home, Ralph Cifaretto. Like, that's who you're going to bring around your kid?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
To the point of where they think that, absolutely. 100% sure. Like, it was ridiculous. To the point where later in this episode, I wanted to say that Carmela's like, Ro, you need to keep Ralphie. He's a real catch. Like,
it's so sick that she says that. I know.
It's so fucking crazy. Jay said he left us a message. I think it's asking me a couple questions if I'm going to be doing some streaming fight coverage coming up soon.
Sebing, that is 100% correct. The dumbest junior is Carbine.
Listen. There's no reason to imply that Matt will be a better co-host until I leave the show, and then we'll know that Matt will be a better co-host. Until that time, where I quit where I die and Matt takes over the show, it's hard for Matt to prove that he's going to be a better host without me. He'll be even more effective. He just needs time.
That's one of those roles where they were deep enough into the show where they could have done a better job casting too. Like, why do you pick?
It's so funny. But let's hear JSM ask me a couple questions. This might be off Soprano topic, but let's hear what Jay has to say.
Hey Phil, are you covering or watching the or live streaming, like, the Jake Paul versus Tyrone Woodley fight that was announced on August 28th, or the Logan Paul versus Floyd Mayweather fight on June 16th, or the TikTokers versus YouTube event on June 12th.
I will look into all those events. I definitely am interested in doing more of the boxing events. I had a good time doing the Tyson Roy Jones thing, and right now it's more about money and finding stealing streams, surfing those streams. Right now I'm going through some work transition, so I'm extra broke. But yes, at least one of those fights I will at least try to cover, especially and also I want to try to cover the Tyson Fury fight that's coming up in September too. So I don't know which one of those I will be doing, and I'm moving at the beginning of August too, so I'm dealing with some living cost changes. So yes and no is the answer. I'm going to try, but I don't want to make any promises to do any of those events quite yet. But I had a great time talking about them before. Tony knows so much about the fight game, and I'd love to have him on to do something like that again in the future. Thank you, Jay, and thank you for all the support, buddy. You're fucking awesome. Floyd,
is Tyson Fury fighting Deontay Wilder? Is that what
yeah,
it is?
he was forced to. He's being forced to fight him again.
Right,
for a third
he doesn't
time.
want it. He just wants to fight
He just wants to
Joshua,
fight.
right?
He just wants to fight a bag of Doritos. I think is what Tyson Fury wants to fight. But yes, that's I'm actually excited for the third fight. Anyways, so Jay says Floyd and Logan is June 6th. Probably not the June 6th one. That's a little soon, and I have some and
5 days.
And we have a friend that's going to be in town for a week that week, which is almost a hurricane friend. Which when he's around, all things become about that person. Matt knows what I'm talking about. So to get back into this episode, Saul Goodman says, some would tell you that little Carmine is a secret genius who's responsible for the final conflict between Tony and Phil. And that's that thing I was trying to tell you about, the video I sent you. I don't think you ever watched, where it's the person claims that this is all a ruse. The whole thing that happened with Phil and Tony was purposely set up to the point where Tony and Phil were about to solve their problems, and then Carmine Jr. out of nowhere brings up, oh, remember that stuff with your brother? Remember this? Remember that? And it brings everything back to a head and causes the breakup between them, which eventually leads to all the Tony's guys being killed, Tony being killed, if you believe that, and then Butchie...
Phil being killed.
And then Butchie giving up Phil before that to kill Phil and then not taking over as boss. Butchie didn't do that to be boss. He did that for some other unknown reason. So some people, the people that dig deep on this stuff, think that really what it means is that Carmine Jr. is smarter than he seems, set this all up with the help of Paulie Walnuts and Patsy to set up Tony, and with Butchie, like went to Paulie and Patsy and went to Butchie and set up getting rid of both Phil and Tony because they're both, too emotional and have too fiery to deal with, and that New York and New Jersey will get along a lot better with both of them out of the way. I'm not saying I believe that, but that's somewhat summing up what the theory is, paraphrasing to a certain extent. Matt, what do you think about all of that?
Honestly, I gotta watch and see. I haven't watched a lot of season 5. Season 6, it's not something you rewatch.
Saul Goodman says Saul Goodman in the chat says those people are wrong though. What I want you to do is to do a Steve Sharippa there and go, those motherfucking idiots are fucking stupid. I want to motherfuck the world. I know you don't love Bobby Bacala, but if you watch The Soprano Pot, you would love Steve Sharippa. He wants to write have Michael Imperioli read something that's called Steve Sharippa Motherfucks the World at his funeral, where he rags on everyone that fucked him over. He's a funny guy. And Jen actually sent this to me too. I was just going to ask you if she sent you something. She's now obsessed with following Michael Imperioli on Instagram, mainly because of his musical choices. Yeah, and he's got a rock band that he's going to be touring around with in the next couple of years too. I want to see it. But yeah.
Speaking of rock band, we also have another question that we should be asked. This will be a sub question for this episode. Is Miami Relatives the worst band or musical act that we see in The Sopranos?
Maybe, but they're a real band minus a couple. They renamed themselves though. It's actually a real band though. They were talking about that on the Sopranos show. But yes, the people want to know this because it's not just us. Michael Imperioli and Steve Sharippa do a podcast called The Talking Sopranos. I've mentioned it many times. Much better than what we do here. In fact, in the video that they put out,
partially because they were in the show.
They were in the show, but what's funny, Matt, is at the beginning of the most recent episode of the podcast they did, where they announced this special that they're bringing in. They're inviting fans to write a 150-word essay to try to be on their show. So I'm gonna write a 150-word essay to see if we can get on, but. They started off by saying, the reason why we started to do this show is we were checking it out and we heard a bunch of other people were doing podcasts about The Sopranos that had never, ever been on the show, doing recaps of every episode, and they don't know shit about the show. I'm convinced they were talking about us. I know we're the smallest of them all.
I'd be flattered if they were, to be quite honest with you. I would love that podcast started because of us.
Imagine if I'm going to take credit for it with our 150 views every week. But no,
and our 900 days hiatus. So.
But seriously, the minor thing could have been they were like, does anyone else doing a Soprano podcast? And done like a quick search, and we pop up because at the time we started, we were one of like the 2 or 3 people on YouTube covering the Sopranos at all. And now there's like a lot of people doing it. The Sopranos, autopsy theories, whatever. There's a lot of videos and stuff. But at the time, we were one of the only ones. So some sick part of my mind is like, they did a quick search, saw us, didn't even watch it, just saw us idiots and goes, these idiots are talking, why can't we do this? And they basically do the same thing with the 2 camera setup with both of them on screen and shit too. So I don't know. I don't think it's the case, but in my egocentric mind, I'm going to choose to think that they're watching us. And we love you guys, and we'd love to be on the show. Okay, so those people are wrong, though. No, Adriana's ex-band is the worst of all. Do you remember which name they were, Saul? Like, well, let's keep tallies on this, just like we're doing on the Sill. How many times it still does real business? Let's also keep a Joe Stress in all the bands that play at the Crazy Horse and see who's the worst and which was a worst place to have bands play. The Peach Pit After Dark on 90210 or the Crazy Horse? Who had worse bands? And I think
the other thing, we already had that other band too. The one with
with Christopher and the Hit is a Hit one. Wasn't that the episode with
the Hesh one?
It's called A Hit is a Hit.
They want the reparations.
Oh, what was the name of the name of that band? It was like something Finger or something, wasn't it? Like
it was awful.
Awful. That was the worst band.
I don't know. This band's pretty terrible. Okay, let's go. Let's do this episode.
Okay, everyone, and thank you so much for checking that out so far. We appreciate everyone watching us and keeping track and having fun with us. Today we are watching again.
Season 3, episode 9, the Telltale Moozadell.
The Telltale Moozadell. And holy crap! My neighbor downstairs is one of the people on the chat. And he's like, "Wait, Phil, are you moving?" I don't know quite yet. I'll know in the next. I'll know by the end of the month if I'm moving at the beginning of August. Unfortunately, just to get into it, a friend of mine's buying a house a couple of miles from here, and he might need someone to move in to kind of watch and keep track of the other, almost be sort of like in charge of the building. So
it's the same hurricane friend he's talking about. So.
But nothing is concrete yet. So don't mention anything to our landlord. Nothing is concrete. I don't believe anything this person says until I am signing papers. So
even then, you don't believe it.
Right. So this person is very untrustworthy. So I'm just putting it out there in the world, but that might happen. So I don't know if you're still watching, Chris, but thank you for checking out the podcast. I really, really appreciate that. He's like, "What's that noise upstairs?" Oh, this asshole is doing a podcast. We need to check this out, but yes, nothing is set in stone yet. So as soon as I know anything, I will mention something to both you and Pam, which would honestly be a bummer because again, not to get into this, now we're having a freaking Zoom call here, but I really do love you guys downstairs. You're probably the best neighbors I've ever had, and Pam is an amazing landlord. So which you can't say that about every landlord and neighbor you bump into in your life. We do have some Crazy Horse in Vegas. They are strip clubs. Peach Pit After Dark had some bands I've heard of at a time. Yeah, it's true. The Peach Pit After Dark had some actual big name acts and bands and such. So let's get this together right now. I'm on tilt here for a second. HBO. Let me open up my HBO Max. And if you guys want to watch along with us, as I said, you go Crazy Horse Paris, France. Forgot the names. Here we go. We're going to be pressing 3, 2, 1, and then push play. This is season 3, episode 9 of The Sopranos. Here we go. You ready, Matt?
I'm ready.
3, 2, 1, go! How you doing?
I think we're good. I might be off by a second. We'll
Excellent.
see.
Excellent. So let's scroll back up here. Jay says Wilder is going to beat down again Tyson. Oh, going to get beat again. Tyson will beat Wilder easy. He did beat him easy in the second fight. Wilder won the first one, correct?
It was kind of a draw in the first one. The second one was but Tyson Fury was in the worst shape of his entire life for the first one. And he actually went and trained for the second one and just outboxed him. Like that's what the second one was.
And I have to say, Chris, if you are still watching, thank you so much for checking out the podcast. And I love that it didn't occur to me it might be you because of how astute your comment was. He was the one that set us down the direction of the dumbest junior in the entire series was little Carmine, which is absolutely freaking true.
It is.
So, but thank you so much for checking this out, Chris. I do appreciate it. The peach pit.
I have a feeling that little Carmine, never actually killed anyone. He never did any of those things.
No, and he was smart enough. If we're to buy the story that he told Tony at the end, he was smart enough to get out of it. He had a chance to vie for leadership, and he chose, for his own mental sanity, to step away from it. Jay says first one was a draw. Second one was Tyson knocked out, and there are rumors. Yeah. Okay, here we go. We start right off with happy birthday, baby. In this whole thing, Tony's doing this all, right? Like, yes, it's her birthday, but he got her this gift because he's guilty because he cheated on her, right? I mean, because he's falling in love with Gloria at this point.
Yeah, he's pretty head over heels with Gloria at this point. He doesn't get this ring if he isn't having a thing with Gloria right now.
No, not at all. And I love how Meadow right from the beginning knows spots that it's like way too big of a ring. And here we go. We have one of Matt's classic AJ Soprano's a dink moments where AJ comes in and is like, I got you a present. Oh
my God. Yeah,
the Matrix. I didn't wrap it to save trees.
Is he wearing a Pantera shirt?
No. He's not even wearing a slip.
Oh, that's right. Defensive captain. Freshman defensive captain.
Oh, yeah, because he's such a fucking football force. Can't you just imagine how much of a force on the field AJ is?
Yeah.
Oh, my God. Unstoppable, Matt. So, I can't lie. I did something similar to this when I was a kid. I think I bought my grandmother one year for her birthday Total Recall. I'm like, Nana, do you know what we need to do? We need to get the fuck to Mars. That's what we need to do.
Of all the movies your Nana does not need to see, Total Recall's right up at the top.
The gifts the kid give Carmela really are the worst. Thank you, so I was just about to say that.
The Matrix is amazing, though. That's the difference.
Yeah, it's amazing a movie, but like Meadows gets her a day spa and puts them both, and one for herself, and puts them both on Carmela's credit card.
No, on Tony's card, I think.
Did she say Tony?
I got myself one so we can
Let's
go
see.
together. I put it on your credit card.
Okay, they don't show who she's looking at it, but they have Tony nod, so I assume it's Tony. So I assume you're right. It's Tony. And here we got Rocco with is this our first Vinny? We've seen Vinny before this, right? We have.
We've definitely seen Vinny before, yeah.
Okay. They talk about this in Talking Sopranos.
Yeah, the first time I remember seeing Vinny is
Doogie Howser.
True. No, he's with Christopher when they're in the pizza place when Jackie.
Oh,
Jr.'s
yeah,
in
when
there,
Jackie Jr.'s
because they say, Vinny or Benny, whatever his name is, just got out of jail.
Benny Fazio. I mentioned it before because of where they go with Furio in season 4, and this is one of the things that bothers me about Furio in season 4, and we're gonna get into it, but he's such a sick, evil fuck in probably the biggest muscle that they have in everything up until the Carmela romance, and then they show his more romantic, lighter side, and they make it seem like he's one of the nice guys. But you're right, he's not. He's the most evil one they got.
Yeah, and I told you, it actually Saul. This is Saul's fault. Tony Pajamas.
My God, it's Tony Pajamas!
It's definitely Tony Pajamas.
Sorry for the bang on the ceiling. Sad to see you're taking a break. I wish you the best luck. The break will only be next week, really. Matt and I will be back in 2 weeks. I'll explain to it a little bit at the end what's going on, but basically I had to get some medical stuff the last couple of days, and I'm waiting for the results. And while I'm waiting for the results, I'm a little stressy. So it's better if I'm not on the mic because that's all I can kind of talk about. But we'll talk about it at the end.
Tonight's actually about to take him off of the stress.
Exactly. That's the point. Yeah, exactly. Tonight is I'm getting a little drunk and I'm getting off the stress, but yes. So it'll only be next week. I think I'm going to be taking next week off. Matt and I will be back in 2 weeks on Tuesday, and so it won't be that long of a break. Just about a week. I agree. Furio becoming tender is one of the most idiotic decisions David Chase ever made. They could have done a different romantic connection with Carmela with somebody, but I guess he's the only member of the crew. It would have made sense.
He's the only one that can get up and walk away and isn't married and isn't.
But it's a shame that they had to do that at the hurt of him being a great character. You know what I mean? Like they or by his character nature. He had certain dynamics of his character, being someone that's the first time we see him, he's slapping a kid around and being like violent. You mentioned that last week when I said he was a nice guy.
When he walks into that like the massage parlor and just starts like hitting women in the face.
Yeah.
Like, that's what he does.
That's Furio. But they take that and they make him Mr. Romance. And I love in that scene when Jackie Jr. shows up and he's like talking shit about how he knows football and AJ and him are connecting to a certain extent. He shows up. I love Janice in that scene. We kind of talked over it. But I don't know if that's the scene where Janice is doing coke. And that might be later.
No, that's later, I think.
But Janice in that scene says something like, Janice is great in this episode. Like, she's subtle in this episode. Again, we're not full on Janice, I think, till next season, really.
Very, very little Janice.
But when she does, she kills every freaking scene. Like, every freaking scene. And thank you to Gecko in Celebrity Bikini. I very much appreciate that.
I'm trying to think, when is Janice in this? Like, when are they together again in this?
There's another event that they're at. There's a big party or something.
Yeah, but what the hell is it?
Oh, we'll get to it.
We'll get to it.
Oh, is it the opening of? Oh no, I might be confusing it. I'm confusing it with next episode.
No, it's in this episode.
It's next episode when her and Ralphie start. No, it's next episode.
No, it's not. I promise you, it's not.
Okay, we'll wait. We'll wait and see. I love how when Adriana walks in here, she's like, "I smell fish. Now I smell piss."
I smell piss. Yeah.
And I guess this is the completion of the storyline from A Hit Is a Hit. That he's always known that she wants to do something with rock and roll bands and book bands, and this is a little less important that she finds good bands. Last time she tried to do this, she found a rock band and found a band she thought was good, and Hesha's like, this band sucks. If she's just running a club, you can have shitty bands play and they'll still sell out. It's the Jersey Shore.
We're in a club near the near the fish in the Jersey Shore.
Yeah.
And again, just the fact that it's owned by the Soprano family, people will be in there.
So is this ultimately just another bust out like Danny Scatino's place? Like they're just gonna bust this out and eventually?
No, he bet over his head and he bet the business over his head, but they still need him there as a front, so he's still there.
I love.
They're not busting it out. They're gonna run it as a nightclub.
I love that line. Don't bet over.
Bet with your head, not over your head.
Yeah, and I believe they were saying that in the Talking Sopranos. That was a message by like the gambling commission or something like that. And Michael Imperioli actually directed some commercials with James Gandolfini in it, saying that very line. So it's a little bit of an inside joke there. And she loves her ring, but eventually she takes it off and has it resized. And I don't know if it's for real. Like, I don't know if she just starts to feel so guilty about what's going on, she just takes the ring off.
Now, this is the main part of the story here, is right here, Carmela not approving of Jackie Jr., Tony approving of Jackie Jr., and then watching that change in the next 40 minutes.
Almost Tony being, and I think this is just the credit to how much of a narcissist in a borderline or whatever fucked up Tony is, that he can't deal with when she goes, I never thought he'd end up with a guy like Jackie. Tony gets offended. Like, what do you mean like a guy like Jackie? we're like Jackie. We're the type of person, but then once Jackie
Right.
shows to be that kind of person later in the episode, he's like, you need to stay the fuck away from her. You know, like, so he feels the same way Carmela does. He doesn't want her to end up with someone like him.
No. Because right now he thinks that he's at Rutgers and he's in pre-med. That's what is in Tony's head right now.
Right. Okay. So thinking that maybe he just has almost what she ends up with, where she ends up with.
He thinks it's Cusimano right now, or it's like, Carmela's cousin
Brian.
Yeah, like someone like that. You're still Italian, you're still from the family, but you're doing your thing.
Or I was gonna say basically who she ends up with, Patsy's lawyer kid.
Yeah.
So they mentioned this in the Talking Sopranos too. I don't know if this is poor story structure stuff or something that doesn't make sense together, or it's just to think that he's not really going at this point, but just sort of trying to do that last ditch effort. I had thought he was already dropped out of college. I guess he's still kind of going.
See, I thought he was too. Maybe he's still taking classes. He tells Tony later he only has classes 3 days a week.
Maybe he dropped all of his classes except for this creative writing class, and he's
Maybe he's not in pre-med anymore, which you explain why he's in the creative writing.
We got to say it right here. Look in the background. You may see someone, that blonde right there, has a poker face on her face. That's because that is, in fact, the one and only Miss Lady Gaga. Yes, if you do not know, right there she is, the blonde. That is Stephanie.
Look at this tiny TV and look at this, yeah.
Stephanie something, whatever her real name is. That is her first acting job, and that is Miss Lady Gaga right there. Yep, she is the blonde.
I mean, I definitely did destructive shit for no reason.
We did shit like this all the time, Matt. Like,
no, I would never cross this line. I
Dude,
don't think. Me personally, I wouldn't.
Do you remember when several of us, I don't know if it was you, we broke into Sawtelle Brothers? I know I was with Sam Smullen. I was with John Ryan.
No,
I
was underneath all the time with Nick teaching me how to smoke cigarettes.
Right. And I was with a few other people. I think it was maybe Kate Malone, a couple other people, and we like broke a window in Sawtelle Brothers and like climbed in through the window and threw a huge party there. We got a rave in there or some crap. Like, so
ask me why I did it. I have no reason why.
Do you remember when Nick and I used to flip over the soccer things in the park every night?
Yeah. I used to throw rocks at Stanley School on the way home from the high school.
Yeah, like
trying to break windows. No reason.
Exactly. So kids are being kids, and I like how that's a real situation where it shows how shit really happens with kids. It wasn't a plan. They didn't go there and plan to trash the fucking pool. Shit just happens. Look at this douchebag, fucking moron.
Yeah, terrible act.
And listen to what he's saying to him too. He's basically teaching AJ how to cheat, which is good tips in football. But he's like, yeah, you don't have to be good, just cheat the quarterback's eyes, get a tell on him, and that's how I got to be good, because I'm never good by talent. I think it's just a metaphor to the fact that Jackie Jr. never gets anywhere through his own skill. He gets ways through trickery or knowing somebody.
And I'm going to tell you, rewatching this, I was shocked. I didn't remember that he straight up lied to Tony about I just got an A in my paper. I didn't realize he did get an A.
Or maybe he did get an A because she fucking wrote the paper for him.
No part. It wasn't his paper, though.
Do you know what my favorite line in anything like that in any movie is in Back to School when Rodney Dangerfield's in the class with his girlfriend? You haven't seen Back to School? Okay.
25 years ago.
There's a line where he starts paying people to write all of his papers for him, and he is in the poetry class, and he has a paper on Kurt Vonnegut, and he has the paper written, and she's yelling at him. She's like, I don't know whoever wrote this paper, like, it wasn't you. I know it's not you. I know you too well. This isn't your paper. We're fucking, I get you. And whoever wrote this paper doesn't know a thing about Kurt Vonnegut. And it cuts, like a quick cut, to Rodney Dangerfield on the phone saying, and another thing, Vonnegut, I'm canceling that check. Like he hired Kurt Vonnegut to write a paper on Kurt Vonnegut.
That's funny.
And it failed because the person said he didn't know anything about it. It's one of my favorite movie transitions ever. It's just so fucking, and another thing, Vonnegut, I'm stopping payment on that check. To be fair, being good at cheating could be considered, it is. The people that are good at it, the people that can write test answers on the bottom of their thumb in tiny fucking ink so that they can read it during a test, or crib sheets, those tiny crib sheets, and being able to write small and read small, or cheat in different creative ways, that is a talent skill set onto itself that is just as beneficial in life as doing good on an algebra test.
Okay, I'm going to correct everything you said in a minute, but I want us to listen to this because this is one of the funniest, weirdest, out of like left field scenes in The Sopranos.
Listen, Matt. My pizza never did anything to anybody. Who made this pizza? I didn't make this pizza. I love this guy. I love how dragnet-ish this is.
Yeah, the whole thing is. Come again, sir?
Come again, sir? And what was cool about watching The Talking Sopranos this episode, if you haven't, is Michael Imperioli is the writer, so he definitely said he was going for a dragnet kind of thing in that scene particularly.
How's that, sir? Double meatball, pepperoni.
How's that, sir?
Does this pizza fit a...
Any customers order this combo on a regular basis? Only one I know. Who's that? I'd rather not say. Tell me right now. I find it these bastards.
I wish that old guy is awesome. He's killing that scene.
Technically, you're an accessory after the fact.
I cannot believe
World Rewind. Spies Like Us. Chevy Chase had the eye patch cheating scene. Absolute classic. World Rewind. Awesome. I haven't seen your name in the live chat before. Great to see you, World Rewind, and thank you. That is another amazing one. Spies Like Us is a movie I kind of forget about in all the big...
I saw it in the theater, I want to say, which is crazy because I was way too young to see it.
Yeah.
So it was probably early to mid-'80s.
Great movie, and I often forget about that in the Chevy Chase filmography. I love this.
I also just realized right now the other side. I forgot they said there's Moozadell on that pizza. That's like the whole.
Oh, yeah.
The title of this, the Telltale Moozadell, goes. It's a
Poe thing.
It's a Poe thing, and then B, it's this is what gives it away.
This again, we get one of my favorite lines in the entire episode, and maybe entire Sopranos. On your mother's birthday, and then when Tony on your mother's birthday,
yeah,
and then she says what he did, and Tony. And
they always do that at your mother's funeral, at my mother-in-law's funeral. Like they always use that line.
And then Carmela's like, "You vandalized a swimming pool." And Tony's line, "How do you vandalize a swimming pool?" I don't know why, but that line just cracks me up. How do you vandalize a swimming pool?
it wasn't.
And then AJ being so dumb here when he's like, "It's later."
It was
I think.
after midnight. Yeah, but dude, I did that stuff at that age.
Oh, me too. Me too.
Just play that like it wasn't though.
It wasn't. And it was. He didn't do that intentionally. And I love his whole like later when what are the I don't know. What are you talking about? The gutters.
I love the Pantera shirt.
Brendan says not as dumb as, and Brendan Davis in the live chat, and Matt knows Brendan as well. Another one of our real life people. Brendan says not as dumb as Matthew Bevilacqua. Those two dumbasses were probably dumber than Jackie Jr. They didn't need meth to make those stupid mistakes. They were dumb.
And like the one was dumber than the other. That was the thing. There was no brains in that operation.
It was all. What was the other guy's name? No, it wasn't him. It wasn't me. It was
no, not Brendan Filoni. That's Christopher's friend. It was I forget his name.
But yes. But yeah, the other one. It was the other kid, not Matt Bevilacqua and his other buddy, whatever. Because he was like, no, it was all that guy. It wasn't me. It was that guy. And dazed and confused when Pickford's mother asks Slater about his grades. Straight A's. He's here to buy the trees. Straight A's. Fucking great. And I love it. I love keep them coming. If people can think of other awesome cheating scenes. I'm trying to think of the classes I cheated in. I actually wrote crib sheet. And I'm embarrassed to say the one I did the most was Miss DeFeo's English class in vocabulary. I couldn't pass her friggin' vocabulary tests, and I just hated her, and I wouldn't study out of spite. So out of a point, it was Sean. Thank you. It was Sean. It wasn't me. It was Sean.
That's right. It was Sean. It was all Sean.
It was all Sean. Can I have a Pepsi? Oh no, it was a Tab. How's that drink? Is it
he
good?
ends up having a diet, and like, you sure you want that? It's okay.
I think it was a Tab. I want to say it was like a Tab or something like that.
Yeah, it was Diet Fanta is what it was. It was Diet Fanta.
Thank you, Matt. That was going to bother me that I didn't know that. We got Mel MC in the live chat. Hey, Phil, I finally caught your live. It's great you're doing The Sopranos. Cannot wait for Better Call Saul to return in the lives. Oh, someone mentioned, I was talking to someone earlier about how they were like, we miss your show. We can't wait till we're back to week stuff. And I mentioned a bunch of shows that are coming up in 2021 and the end of 2021 and beginning of 2022.
Thank you. Yeah.
And the one I missed was Better Call Saul. Better Call Saul, the final season of Ozarks. I can't wait to talk about that week to week. The final season of The Walking Disaster, the Lord of the Rings series, Game of Thrones. I'm even going to try the Wheel of Time. So a lot of House of Dragons. A lot of good shows coming up. A lot of them aren't coming until 2022, so we have to sort of piece together 2021 with stuff like The Sopranos. It'll give Matt and I a big chance to sort of catch up on a lot of this.
So we missed an important scene with Rowan and Carmela there, where they're talking about.
That's the one where she says Ralphie's a catch.
Well, they say they're like, here's already a regular. Here's our husbands. We know that they're a bunch of philandering assholes. We stay with them. Here's already a regular, honest guy, and like his is the one with the
His marriage is in the Pissadoo.
The Pissadoo, yeah.
The Pissadoo. And then that's in the same scene where they start talking about Jackie and how Rosie's so excited about the Jackie.
You can tell Carmela isn't, but she's just like,
And she pacifies that answer by saying, "Stay with Ralphie. He's a catch." That was the scene that she says that. He's a catch. Catching the clap, maybe. I don't know, catching herpes.
Tony's also horrified here because he knows that she's being very flirtatious.
Dude, how dumb is he? His wife goes here. Like, I know she's not here this day, but literally we see later when Gloria acts cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs and picks up Carmela and speed drives her home in a friggin' psycho drive, it's the biggest psycho drive in the world. Carmela goes here. He's making out with her on a public lot. Like, seriously, how dumb is Tony?
He's going to know his wife doesn't show up there, though, and everyone else is too scared to say anything to her.
Maybe.
The only people, who's he going to run into that would ever tell Carmela? One or two of Carmela's friends, but even then, they know they could end up.
Rosalie probably would. Sill's wife probably would. Any of those.
Ralph is a catch like COVID is a catch. No, COVID is much less dangerous than Ralphie.
People can.
And listen, I am scared of COVID, but Ralph is way worse.
Ralph is way worse. Good of Tony and Pussy to consider Matt's diet. Yeah, it is really good of both of them to give him that diet Fanta. Gecko says summer school isn't cheating, but when Dave just keeps going, see. That's one of those underrated movies that gets forgotten about over time. Oh, here we go.
We just missed one of the funniest
lines. We just missed one of the funniest lines, yeah, too, with the snake. Dude, a snake can literally.
That's why they call them a snake, because they can fuck themselves. Don't you think it has to do with Adam and Eve? Paulie goes, listen, T, snakes were fucking themselves long before Adam and Eve.
Mel, I was just going to call you Melly Mel for some reason. Mel MC says, you are right, man. Ralph is worse. Mel also adds, Tony is a horn dog. But only Bobby didn't have a Gumar. The only other one we didn't know that might not have had a Gumar is Johnny Sack. I know he's not a member of the Soprano family, but every time girls came around, Johnny Sack left because he really loved his wife. And they're the only ones we know of that didn't have Gumars. Every other one did, including Junior, even though he didn't have a wife. He had the Gumar and other women he called her his Gumar.
Yeah, and Paulie did too.
Paulie too. But
I don't know if Christopher had a formal Gumar. He definitely cheated.
Cheated a bunch.
I don't think he had a girlfriend.
I think he did eventually towards the end when they were all hanging out one night with the Gumars night. But maybe he just had a roster instead of a Gumar. He had a Sam Malone Black Book or something. So, scene number one about Jackie just being a complete dumbass. Does he really think...
Tony and Carmela had decided that she was going to talk to...
Right, but I'm talking about the way he deals with Tony. Like he talks to Tony and he has a response to him and an interaction with him that he thinks he's immune to Tony ever hurting him. And I don't think he realizes it till Tony beats the shit out of him in the bathroom, until he really believes that Tony would ever touch him. I think up until that point, he thinks he can't touch me. Can't touch me.
He's Jackie Sr.'s kid.
Yeah, and even after that beat up.
But Tony lets him know now, though. He goes, but this is my daughter.
This is different.
This is different.
And right to the point at the end where he contacts Tony.
He's the guy that did all that Vincent Price shit.
The Vincent Price shit, yeah.
Edgar Allan Poe. If anyone doesn't know this, there was like a bunch of movies in the 60s that were all like Edgar Allan Poe stories that has Vincent Price acting in them.
Now, Saul Goodman says, how do you know what Sill's wife would do? She basically has no character. It's true. I think Matt, in fairness, Saul Goodman, I think Matt's eyes said that same thing when I said Syl's wife would say something. He just didn't have the strength to battle me on that one. So, but I would say Matt probably would agree with that comment too. We don't know enough about Syl's wife to know if she would. She'd tell Syl. I think we know enough that she would go, Syl. I saw Tony fucking somebody. What should I do? I think that's all we really know of her because she doesn't really have character. You're right. She doesn't.
Right. I mean, because they didn't hire her as an actress.
No, that's what you're weird. That's the weird thing, Matt. She is an actress. She got hired because her husband did, and he wanted to get his wife work because she was a working actress.
Oh, okay, I don't know what else she's in, but she shouldn't be. She's a worse actress. She's a worse actor than Jackie Jr.
But I want to say on the episode of Talking Sopranos that had Syl on, he talked about how this band.
Miami Relatives. Dear God.
Just so we can be distracted by this disgustingness on stage. Gecko says, Johnny Sack loved his wife. It's like Cersei with her kids. Most redeeming quality. Let's hope he doesn't go as psycho as, I mean, we've seen the end of the series, but I'm pretending like I don't know what happens. Let's hope he doesn't go as psycho as Cersei, though, and burn everybody.
Well, that's another part of this, is for people his age, there's got to be an old schoolness to
Oh my God.
some guys, that old schoolness goes to, like, not cheating on their wife.
Little piece of actual information about Sopranos production stuff from Talking Sopranos if you don't want to watch it. See how Paulie Walnuts is in a suit here, obviously overdressed for the party right now. That is actually true of Tony Sirico as a person. They were telling a story on the show about how there was a party at Artie Bucco's house, the actor that plays Artie Bucco. The party was at 7 or 8 o'clock. He showed up, Tony Sirico showed up 15 minutes before the start of the party, walked in the door with full suit on, overdressed for the party, and just hung out. He stayed late, showed up early. That's what kind of person Tony Sirico is. He's also a person that goes to restaurants, complains that there's no spaghetti on the menu, and will threaten himself to leave too. So he is very, very, very Paulie Walnuts in real life. The more you hear people on the show talk about it, the more this character that he's playing is a enhanced version of himself.
Yeah.
All the quirks involved too, all the weirdness. So this guy gets dragged out of the Crazy Horse selling ecstasy, thrown out. Furio gives him a warning. This is going to become relevant later. Let's go into the live chat for a second. Johnny Sack loves his wife. I love that Stevie Van Zandt and Maureen work together. Did Johnny Sack love his wife? He bought a car she could never drive it. That was kind of a dick move when he bought the Maserati. She can't ride in it because of her back. Yeah, sure, Johnny. Dick. That was a dick move, Mel. Thank you for calling me. You get a Tommy point for that one. That was a good one.
You know, this here is the scene. There's two scenes that always. Well, I guess there's three scenes with her, but the scene between the two of them that always stick out. That you always remember is the zoo and with the scene with the steak. Like those are the things you remember between the two.
Yeah.
You remember two more scenes with her, but they're not with Tony. One is with Patsy, and one is with
It won't be cinematic, man.
Carmela. Yeah. It won't be cinematic.
She's so cute. This actress is so cute. Like, I don't know. Of all the relationships Tony's had in this show, Carmela aside, this is the only one I buy. Like she's a good enough actress that I believe that this person would be attracted to Tony Soprano. When we get into some of the other girls,
and vice versa, Tony would be attracted to her.
Yeah.
She's dark. She's mysterious. She's the complete opposite of Carmela in so many ways.
It makes sense. When we get to like Valentina, I mean, I guess because they're like bada bing girls and looking to like date other mafiosos and be on their arms or whatever. Yeah. But I just don't get it all the time. Or there's more when he meets random girls and he has sex with them. When he meets like Chris's girl, the girl with the one leg, like there's other girls he meets, the waitress, the stewardess, the girl from the girl in season.
Bangs that girl in Barone Sanitation. The tiny one, and he's.
Yeah, the girl at the doctor's office, the nurse that checks out his spot. Like, there's not necessarily the girls that are into the whole mafia thing. There's the random hot girls that happen to want to bang Tony Soprano, even though they don't know he's a mafia guy. Like, that's the stuff I'm like, I don't buy it. But this relationship is probably, other than Carmela, the most real relationship on the show he has. It feels real. It feels, even in this moment, the way they're looking at each other. Like, both of these two are excellent actors, and it pays off in the scenes that we get to watch in in between them.
And Phil, look, you know, I know I've been, I'm sure you've been, where you get caught up in a relationship with someone that you were just so attracted to, you don't even know why, and you know it's almost wrong and dangerous, and like the person's crazy and it's gonna flame out, but you're like, there's a certain point where you just can't, do it.
I mean, in fairness, Matt, I'm not going to name full names, but we've both dated people with the name Jay that are like that. And
yeah, but in my defense, that's not one I felt was like this. That was just stupid of me not knowing anything.
Right,
but I've had them later.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, but like in the moment, I think you weren't aware of how crazy it was in the moment in that first one that I'm talking about.
Yeah, and that's part of it was the first one. Tony's been around the block and have to know better, but he can't help himself.
But they talk about this on Talking Sopranos. I feel like I always have to say this, so people don't think I'm making this up as my own opinion.
And also the people don't think that you're just stealing stuff from Talking
right,
Sopranos.
Exactly.
Credit when credit's due.
Exactly.
Right?
And Tony has never in his life been with a woman like her. Like, he's always been with girls that maybe he had sex with her, but like he's not going to professional women for the most part and going into them and bumping into them and having interactions. It was happenstance that he happened to get in contact with her. He's not used to a woman like this that has this.
And she doesn't need Tony.
That's what I mean more than anything. Not even the fact that she has a career. They mentioned that, and I think it might be in the next episode or Pine Barrens or the one after that, where they're all talking about where their gumars are, and Tony's like, yeah, she went to Turkey all by herself, and and Paulie's like, what is she, Bada Bing Crosby or something? And Tony's like, no, she's not one of those girls. She's a real woman. You know, she's a real like an adult. She gets her shit done, and like Tony's never been with a woman like this, and I think it's driving him nuts. And he's like this scene, the look.
And in this scene right here, she also knows how much power she's exerting over him, and she knows what she's doing to him right now.
She has it wrapped around her thing. And okay, here we go into this fucking scene. This fucking scene with Jackie Jr. that makes him the biggest dumbass ever in the world. Okay, what the fuck is he doing here? What does he think is going to happen here? Like, does he really think he's going to get away with this? And okay, first of all, he says he can talk to Chris. Okay, not in this scene. This isn't this stupid mistake. In this scene, he's sniffing his own farts. He's doing his Michael Corleone thing, and that's what he's doing. He's doing the Godfather thing.
Part of him thinks I think part of this is also, I don't know how much of the people know about this yet, that he is now dating Meadow. How much does that get him in with someone like Christopher, who is Tony's right-hand guy? Does he think in his head maybe, like, dude, even if you didn't respect me before, I'm banging the boss's daughter.
But that's the thing, Matt. Does he think Christopher respects him because he gave him in that job? I mean,
no, they already hate each other.
They did that job together, stealing the Jewel concert stuff, and he said Jackie Jr. was actually an asset. So he might think he has. And remember, Jackie said to him and his little buddy, "You can come working for me now," and they decided to stay with Ralphie. So he might think that Christopher thinks good things about him at this point, and that he has an in with Christopher.
This is also a very active move by Tony and Carmela to get AJ out of public schools by sending him to a private school.
Yep.
Like, I doubt that happened with Jackie Jr.
And Mel, I'm with you on that one. I just want to slap the living shit out of Jackie Jr. because I'm like, wait a second. He's just someone you just want to slap in the back of the head. Okay, in this moment, if he had come to Christopher, begged him, shown him respect, maybe suggested what ultimately ends up being the solution to him, what can my guy sell it across the street so he's not in your club or something? Like, he could have been a little bit more respectful to Christopher about how he approaches him. He approaches him as like, Christopher, do me a favor. Again, he does it like a Godfather thing, like he's seen too many movies, and he thinks that's what it's like. It's like Tony says to AJ at the end when that point. Remember when he's yelling to Michael Corleone kills the man that shot his father, and you eat your spaghetti and slurp it and say how awesome that is. And he's like, AJ, I want to break my heart. That's a movie. And I think Jackie Jr. knows more about the mafia through the movies, through Goodfellas and The Godfather, than he does through the reality of the situation with his father or Tony or any of those guys. So he's living in this fucking fantasy world that just, like, and that's where I think he's completely idiotic.
Yeah. And Saul, to answer your question, he did hate him before that. You're right. He does give him
praise.
He does give him props for that, but before that, he kept disrespecting Christopher, not going up to him. Oh, he's got his stripes now. When him and his buddy go up to him in the pizza shop, and Christopher wouldn't go up to Christopher.
Little Lord Fuckwad, I think he calls him or something.
Yeah.
And you're right, because
and even then he gives when his friend starts telling Christopher about starts telling him about the Jewel concert, and he's like, yo, why are you telling him that? Like, that's what AJ the hell's his name? Jackie Jr. does at the time.
So in this scene,
I don't know how much of this, though, he may dislike him. I don't know how much of it has to do with Ralphie, because Ralphie is now totally on the outs with Tony.
And I also think it's just a smart move by him to keep the ecstasy out of the club. And I think that's what it comes down to more than anything. I love in that scene, Carmela is yelling at Tony how he sold him out there, and they basically just use AJ for football, and then they expel him the next time. Because the football coach is like, oh, we need AJ. And then the next time AJ fucks up when he pisses in a couple of episodes in the wall, he gets expelled because the football season's over. This is an interesting scene because I've remarked last week, and I think some people do agree, that she heard Tony's voice. She knows. Is it Farquaad? Little Lord Farquaad? Is that what they call him? Like, I forget what Christopher refers to him as. It's like, or am I making that up? Is that from something else? I think that's what he calls him. A little Lord Fucky Pants or whatever he calls him. Because then the FBI guys is like, who is Little Lord? Is it Lord?
Little Lord Fauntleroy?
Fauntleroy. I'm not sure what it is. We'll have to look that up to double check on this. But I want to talk a little bit about this scene before we get past it. Melfi heard Tony there, and she's calling her out on this and saying, wait, I heard a guy's voice. And Gloria's like, that's unprofessional. Fuck you. It is kind of unprofessional. She does sort of cross therapy lines here a little bit.
He does, but I think she's genuinely I don't think she's doing it for any reason other than genuine concern for her. I could be wrong. Part of her doesn't want Tony to be out with us. I don't know. I can't say what.
Right. It's hard, and she gives Tony shit too. And I think Farquaad is the character in Shrek.
He is from Shrek.
Shrek, yeah. It's John Lithgow's character in Shrek.
Yeah.
Thank you, Saga. Yeah, it's from Shrek. It's the little dude in Shrek, which again could be Jackie Jr.'s size in this fucking world.
Correct.
I could see where my brain autocorrected that. And Mel says it's Little Lord Fuckwad. That makes sense. Farquaad is from Shrek, which is a great fucking movie. Great fucking movie.
Shrek 2 is one of the best movies I've ever seen.
Do you know originally, and I love this scene where Still's like, fucking talent. But did you know that in the original, in fact, there's a whole recorded version of the original version of Shrek, which has Chris Farley, not Mike Myers.
I don't know. I know there was a whole version. I know the story.
Or he recorded, like, maybe he didn't record everything, but there's like 70% of the dialogue was already recorded. Like, I think Mike Myers is better for it. I didn't hear it. I've heard of moments. You can find the little pieces and bits and pieces of it on YouTube. I think Mike Myers is better for the role. It was perfect. I wish Chris Farley didn't pass, but it was, awesome the way it went. That being said, similar to the Eric Stoltz scenes in Back to the Future, or the unreleased Game of Thrones pilot episode, I would love to see those things just as an experiment. Just to kind of see what it would look like. With Chris,
I think I've told you this before. In the Eric Stoltz ones, do you know who originally played his girlfriend? Have I discussed this?
I don't know who she was, but I know it was a different girl that they had to recast because she ended up being taller than Michael J. Fox.
Does anyone else, if you guys don't know this in the chat, when Eric Stoltz, if you don't know the story, Eric Stoltz was originally playing
Marty McFly.
Marty McFly. It just didn't work out. It wasn't working whatsoever. And Michael J. Fox is tiny. So when they got rid of Eric Stoltz, it didn't work with the girl they originally had played for him. If anyone doesn't know this, it's actually Jan from The Office.
Oh, it is. Oh, wow.
But think of how tall she is.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah,
Jan's from The Office's life would have been totally different if she was the girlfriend in Back to the Future. Would have been a totally different experience for her because that would have been a breakout role, which she never ended up having because she got pulled.
Wow, that's awesome. Thank you for the little factoid. Now this scene, before we get too far in it, this is little Lord Fuckpants here. Fuckhead is trying to talk to Christopher. Christopher's like, you got a lot of balls. He's trying to sell X here, and Christopher's like, nope, don't want to do it. FBI stuff. And then Jackie pushes it and is trying to give him the look like, listen, buddy. And still smiling at him, not showing any respect, but he sees Tony and he runs the fuck out of there quickly. So because he's not allowed to be in the club at this point.
And I love Christopher. Like, this is why Tony at certain points thinks of Christopher as the heir apparent, because Christopher is using what Tony would say, which is, we don't want the X in there, it's federal stuff. Like, that's such a Tony line of, yep, we could be that greedy, but don't fuck up a good thing we have by bringing more
and it
humanness
just
than we
shows how
currently need.
dumb he is. And this is the dumbest move of all. Like, what's he think gonna happen here? Like, is he really thinking it's outsmart? And then he has the fucking shame to ask him for payment. Like, you need to pay me now too.
Yeah, don't understand what his thought process is here at all.
I don't, and it just doesn't seem like he's actually
Because he
thinking.
doesn't want to. He's trying to save face. I don't know if in the back of his head he thinks that if he can just sort of lasso Meadow in now, she'll stick with him.
She'll stick with him, but what about Tony? You know, does he think he can always play catch me, you can't catch me if I can, like run around the Roadrunner to Wile E. Coyote Tony in this situation?
Yeah, I have no idea what his thought.
He doesn't think Christopher might talk to Tony and tell Tony what just happened. Like, Christopher talks to Tony. He knows Tony. He knows he told Tony about the Jewel concert. You don't think he would go up and tell him about the fucking that little Lord Fuckpants is trying to sell fucking shit in the club? Like,
let's call him Lord Fuckwad just for fun. It's more
Farquaad.
fun.
Yeah, let's call him Lord Farquaad just for
yeah.
fun. For the remainder couple of episodes. Oh, here we go, where AJ's in his little Slipknot wear.
Your father and I have discussed your punishment.
Every scene where they're trying to be normal parents is fucking hilarious. Oh, he really is wearing a Slipknot sweatshirt? Like, I'm not.
Is
oh,
he?
no.
He had the Pantera one on before.
Is that?
What's
I don't even know what symbol that is. Is that Pantera?
I don't know my late '90s metal enough.
Okay, let's put Matt. I'm gonna. Yes, I will. Thank you, Mike. I got you, Matt. They really do go out of their way to make Jackie as unredeemable as possible, Saul. And they do, and they only make him redeemable, as I mentioned, in that scene that we get at the end with him and Omar's daughter, or that he's living with, the girl that he's playing chess with. That's the only moment in the entire series that I like Jackie Jr. And I don't know if that's intentional or done in a way to make it at the last moment. And I'm telling you that Jackie was so very narcissistic, such a unlikable fucking character. And Gex says, I just showed my kid the SNL skit where Mike Myers runs a Scottish store. It's not Scottish, it's crap. And she recognized the Shrek voice right away. She's like, Daddy, is that Shrek? I love that.
Yeah, or even Fat Bastard. It's like the same. He kept going back to that Scottish accent.
Or the voice he does of the father in So I Married an Axe
And
Murderer.
why is like Christopher had never met this kid before. He was like the friend of the friend. Why is he here in the hospital right now?
Oh, that's not Christopher. That's Jackie.
I meant Jackie. I didn't mean Christopher at all.
No. He just briefly. He's here because he's trying to suss out how much information Christopher he gave out.
Right.
You know, and like they don't like you. I don't think
the best line. Love it.
I don't think they like you very much. But yes,
Poor Matouche.
Poor Matouche. And he's like, oh, the nurse might give you a little pull and tug.
Maybe she'll be fine.
Did it blow your mind out to find out that Omar had a daughter? And he is playing Omar in that scene, right? That's when Omar, in my headcanon, that's when Omar leaves Baltimore for a while when he's in the middle of the war and he has to leave for a bit. That he goes and stays in the projects and takes care of Jackie Jr. for a while. That's in my headcanon of HBO shared universe. That's what happened there. I actually do this. I don't know if anyone else does this for pasta because of The Sopranos, and also there's a scene in The Godfather which is very similar where Clemenza's making pasta and teaching Michael how to do pasta. Here's another Jackie Michael thing, where when he's when he's basically teaching him that. Where he does this, like you coat the pasta with butter and flavor. I actually do this based on this recommendation.
I mean, I don't need one, but you know.
So this is where okay, Ralphie's fucked up, but in some weird ways, Ralphie's very easygoing about this whole situation with Jackie. Almost too easygoing. You know, like he's just thinking about him as he's thinking in dollars and cents right now. He's like, oh, okay, you need a gun? Nothing you need to tell me? Okay, here's a gun. Not much thinking, not much caring. He's doing this out of a sense of responsibility.
Jam on you. Plus it's small.
a point. You might want to go with something bigger.
I've talked a lot about subtlety in this episode, and Joey Pants is very subtle in this episode, and it's just those minor things that makes him such a good actor. Yeah, he can have these big crazy moments, but he's also very good at just being doing normal random stuff like making pasta.
Yeah.
It's just so believable. You know, it's not like it's
while
acting.
he gives out a 38 to the heir apparent.
Very comfortable. You know what I mean? It feels like it's very honest though. This is a tough scene to watch with me because this is where we start to see some of her cracks come out, I think. And there's a lot of foreshadowing here. I think this is the scene where he says,
But he meets her in Melfi's office. Like, he knows what he's getting into.
she says she murdered several relationships.
I just want to tell you.
That's what she said when she's asked why she's here. He's like, I've murdered several relationships.
That turns him on so much right there. I don't expect anything from you.
Yeah. Little does he know right now. This is like the eye of a storm, or like the calm before the hurricane right here. Because this,
Really
okay.
are in love with you.
Line 1. You really are in love with yourself. There's another point in there where she says, poor you, I believe, right here. Somewhere in all of this, she says, oh, poor you.
I think she said it at the zoo, but she did say poor you.
At one point in all of this, she says, poor you.
Yeah,
and then
she says poor you.
And then the comparison to Janice. Then later in this scene, the way she reacts to the gun and the way she reacts to the mafia stuff. Like, does she know who Tony Soprano is right now? They were asking.
She has to. She's crazy enough she's Googled it.
You think?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. She has.
If not, right here where she goes, sanitation worker, huh? Like, she says that to him here.
Have you heard that Joey Pants and Michael Imperioli don't get along? That's why he'll never be on Talking Sopranos. I didn't hear that exactly. I'll research that. I was wondering why he wasn't on there. I actually thought it was Steve Sharippa and him that didn't get along. Just because Steve Sharippa tells a story about how Joey Pants yelled at him once for not knowing his lines during a scene, like screamed at him, like and made fun of him in front of the whole crew because he wasn't prepared for a scene or something. Or he kept flubbing a line, and Joey Pants was like, "Come on, are you gonna get the fucking line?" You know, like acting like a dick to him. So I didn't hear about the him and Michael story, but
he seems to be someone like Jeremy Pivens, where in real life they're the asshole that they are on TV.
Yeah, where they could be like, come on, let's do it.
Joey Pants has never played a likable character. Jeremy Pivens never played a likable character.
Has Joey Pants ever played a likable character? I don't think so. Not really. Not a completely likable character.
I mean, he's the shittiest character in The Matrix.
The evil, yeah, and he's I mean, a lot of his biggest roles, we should say, and I guess he's a good guy in Memento, but you don't think he's a good guy.
Kind of. I haven't seen Memento in 25 years. Like, that's.
I don't know, Mel. I wondered why Joey Pants didn't show up. It could also be that he was just too big of an actor to do something like a podcast or something. I don't know. But he was never mentioned. I've also wondered why Tony Sirico hasn't been on yet, but I think Tony Sirico is older and he has a little bit of some unfortunate dementia going on, or early onset Alzheimer's. I don't know this for a fact, but whenever I've seen him recently, he does seem like, you know, he's still great. He still looks great. He seems to still have his mind sometimes, but he seems to be a little off. That maybe that's why they haven't had Paulie on. But
I love this fucking asshole. Saul, this is your fault. Where I'm sitting here now attacking Tony. He's just here justifying his bullshit right here.
Oh, and Brendan, you're right. La Bamba, where he plays the manager that kind of signs him. You're right. La Bamba is a movie he plays good. I forgot that he's in La Bamba.
He's in La Bamba? I haven't seen La Bamba in 30 years.
I believe he's either the recording engineer or the guy that signs him or something.
But he does have dementia. That explains it then. Mel just said.
Okay, so yes, so it is dementia, and I completely understand that. And I wish Tony Sirico the best, having dealt with my mother dealing with something similar before she passed. But you're absolutely fucking right, Matt. This whole scene, the way he gives her money, the way he tells her it's all thanks to her, because it's thanks to her because he's in love, because he met the girl that he's falling in love with in her office because of her fuck up.
I know, but what in Tony's head is the end game with her? Or it just doesn't matter because he's not. See, that's the thing. This isn't about sex. It's not calculated. He's legitimately crazy about her and just drawn to her and can't help it.
I think.
And there's the whole animal magnetism thing that's being played up at the zoo, where that's what they're And then you're actually having sex in front of the snakes. I mean, it's as much over-the-top symbolism as you can have. But.
Matt, do you think his end game could possibly be the fact that instinctively he kind of knows somewhere Carmela might leave him someday, and he's setting up that possible next woman, like he mentions about Adriana, Charmaine Bucco, and Melfi. All three of those girls, after the fact, he's like, maybe I'm going to try something with her. Like these other professional women that he could respect as much as he respects Carmela. So could
He's
it?
gotten away with it up to this point.
But I'm saying with Gloria, maybe he's spying her as another, not even just a Gumar, like another wife, a woman that he could respect more than Carmela, because she has her own life and can have her own life, and he could say fuck you to Carmela if he wants to, and he has another professional woman that's respectful and could be his real life wife.
She also says to him, though, I don't want anything out of this except for kindness. Like, she does lay down. She's not looking to get married.
Gecko, true. That goes with the era of music person in La Bamba. You could say the same thing about like Elvis movies and shit. Tony just insists on thinking about things later so he won't feel bad about it. It's true. Saul Goodman, as usual, is on point. I think Tony is very much only worrying about future Tony. He casts all his problems to future Tony. He's like, that's a problem for future Tony. That's not a problem for me. So yes, does she spend this money on his books? Does she end up, because we end this scene right here.
It's very off. It's very out of character for her to do so.
And I want to say, spoiler, 2 episodes later or 1 episode later, by the end of the season, she says to Tony, I'm not charging you next month because you paid me double. So she doesn't take it, and she doesn't.
That's my girl.
And they just make you want to think it for a moment there. So it's good to see that Jennifer is back. I know she went through a traumatic event, but I think this episode.
Phil, you've never called her Jennifer.
I know. I'm sorry, Melfi. I think
you're usually incorrectly calling her Milfi, and that's been the name for 1,200 days at this point.
Miss Melfi here. I think she's.
I love seeing the outside of this place, by the way, before they walk in.
It's so awesome.
Where it is.
There's a great scene in an episode of Mad Men too, where they go into a place like this, where I really love. If you've never watched Mad Men, Matt, I think you might enjoy it. That's
one of the shows I was telling you. My wife just watched completely behind my back and never told me till I walked in one day and she was on episode 8 and I'm like, "What are you doing?" She's like, "Oh, watching Mad Men," like it was nothing. Like we hadn't talked about watching it for years. Like it wasn't something that was on the list. She didn't tell me, dude. She was 8 episodes in and I walked in and I go, "What are you watching?"
I love you, Jen. That's awesome. I love Mrs. Matt. Okay, so Mrs. Matt could definitely troll Matt, and I love it. Better than anybody. I was gonna call her Mrs. Ice, but we've never established you as Ice in here. Yeah. Oh, so this whole scene, he's in there, and does he basically say the same thing here? No, he says the same thing here as he says in a later episode to Tony. I was at a bachelor party. So I think when he sees him later at the strip club and he's getting a lap dance, I think it's in the next episode maybe. He tells him that he tells him the same thing. I just came from a bachelor party, Tony. I don't know. And I love how
what's interesting is Tony has the bro code where he's not going to go tell anyone that he was there because
the bro code's a thing. But I also need to mention in that scene too, which is funny. I love how it's one of my favorite Jackie Jr. lines. He turns to Tony without dropping a beat. And this comes down to how stupid is Jackie Jr. and says, "You're here." Like he has the balls in the instinctive moment that his knee-jerk reaction isn't to be, "I'm sorry, Tony, XYZ." It's to go, "You're here." Like to challenge him. Like what kind of moron?
And here's Carmela finally coming around on Jackie because yeah, and he's been sitting here playing the game. They went out with, part of it was the whole thing I think when she was out with Roe, hold on to a good guy. He's been playing that, and that's all that she's going to see. And because of the bro code, Tony can't tell her like, well, where he was, that he saw her, that he hung out with her, that he,
And I love this. Tony's so happy he's doing that. And also another little touch in that scene, but before the scene ends, because it's our last scene of the episode, Carmela also in that scene, she buys more jewelry. And
she bought the earrings, she said something's coming up for her.
For the necklace to match to match the ring. And I don't know if it's that because she was dubious through most of the episode that Tony might be cheating or something else might be happening because he bought her that gift. So this is more of ways of how she needs to deal with the fact that this is her dynamic in her relationship. Either way, Tony's happier right now, which is making her happier, and Tony's happier because he's cheating. It's a fucked up situation. It really is a fucked up relationship, and you needed to have the ultimate conclusion of it, which is them breaking up essentially in season 4 and seeing her try to get that divorce. Because there was only so much. As much as I like to bash Carmela, she's just in like this vicious cycle with Tony and doing the only thing she can do to deal with the situation. She knows Tony enough. She's been through this game with him enough to know his signs. Tony's not clever. Tony might be clever in the mafia world, but when in his lying, he's probably a fraction as clever as he thinks he is with Carmela. At least in my mind. I think Carmela sees him in Matrix-like slow speeds. His lies and so does his daughter Meadow. She saw it too. Saw right fucking through it. Like bought the ring, huh? Even though Meadow can't see it in Jackie. Right until the end, she can't really see it in Jackie until she sees it in his face. But Meadow sees it in her father.
Saul, so I don't know if I think Tony kept Jackie's betrayal from Meadow just because he couldn't bear to break his daughter's heart. I don't believe that.
I think there's something to that, though. Maybe. Oh, say what
he wanted to break her heart when it was what does he call him? He makes some ridiculous name about him here about being like
the kid with the car.
No, he makes a ridiculous name about the kid who was half Jewish and half.
Oh
black.
yeah. With
I forget what it is. But he calls him something.
Jamal Ginsburg or something like that.
Yeah.
Hasidic homeboy.
I think one of the reasons he doesn't want to say anything to Meadow is I think in the back of his mind, he does want Meadow to end up with an Italian guy, to end up with someone who was understanding their culture, all the shit in Tony's head. And for Jackie to break all of those things right now may drive her away from wanting to be with an Italian guy, being with someone who understands the family, who is like family, who all that, if it turns out Jackie's a piece of shit right now, this is the only time we ever see Meadow even remotely, till much later, stray towards someone
in the family,
someone in the family. And if Tony ruins that right now, oh, he's a philanderer, he's out doing this. I don't know why I use the word philanderer. I never use it. Out doing any of his other shit, that may drive Meadow away from like the archetype or the person that Tony wants her to inevitably end up with.
Yeah.
But I have no idea.
I think it's also a little bit that Tony knows that if he's the one to say that to her, she is already at a point where she's already in a negative space with him because of everything to do with Noah. That if he again breaks up another relationship of hers, the way Meadow's feeling and what kind of personality traits she has, she's going to do transference of that anger onto Tony. So I think there's an element of that as well, that he might be fearing that he doesn't want to.
Can't Tony tell Carmela and let Carmela do the dirty work?
Carmela doesn't want to do the dirty work. She's loving that Tony's the bad guy now. But I think maybe she would if Tony said that to her, but then he has to admit to Carmela that she was right about Jackie all along. And Tony can't do that. Tony can never admit when someone else is right. It has to be always his idea. That's classic narcissism. He can say, I'm wrong when it's coming from him, but he can't admit fault to his wife because that's a power struggle. So I think, again, we might be overthinking about this more than the writers did, but I do think there's a dynamic of a lot of reasons why he wouldn't say it to Meadow. I think you're right about the Italian thing, and I think part of it is he wants her to figure this out for herself. Part of it is, at this point, he still believes a little bit in Jackie, that he can get his shit together.
I think there is a part of him where there is a tiny part of Tony. I know, Saul, that you think he's a terrible person, and I don't. I think there's a part of Tony that's rooting for Jackie to like
get his shit together,
fulfill his dad's dreams. He would, if Jackie became a doctor from friggin' Rutgers, of course he would want Jackie marrying his daughter. Like 100%. That's his. Tony's dream is like Jackie Jr. or someone very similar to Jackie Jr. becoming a doctor and marrying his daughter.
Right. And
an Italian doctor. And he almost dream.
And he almost gets it. Instead, he gets an Italian lawyer. But I agree. And that's why I think he's keeping his secret at this point too, because at this point right now in the series, he doesn't know Jackie's out of college. He doesn't know Jackie's involved as much as in the stupid way in the mafia that he's trying to be involved.
And unlike all of her other boyfriends, he actually has a vested interest in Jackie as a human being on his own.
Exactly.
Him to do right.
Right now, he thinks he's just a kid in medical school being a dude, and he needs to just slap him in the back of the head and say, don't be a dude.
Who unfortunately is listening to Ralph fucking Cifaretto, which is a huge issue he has, and he, you know.
Yeah, and he's blaming Ralph for a lot. And to go to that question, Richie in the live chat asks us, Richie Aprio in the live chat says, listen, fuck Janice. First of all, fuck Janice. Secondly, why the hell did Ralph give Jackie Jr. the gun? And Mel answers, and we'll see if we agree with Mel. I think it was because he's trying to buddy up to Jackie. I think he wants to look cool.
Absolutely.
Yeah, he wanted to look cool.
Because Jackie hated him at first, and again, they discussed it. I mean, Ro mentions it earlier, how people think she didn't wait long enough mourning Jackie when he died before she started dating Ralph. And so I think Jackie Jr. has resented Ralph for that a lot, and so this is just him trying to. We see this coming up because the whole thing, the downfall of Jackie Jr. is Ralph trying to impress him, trying to tell him stories about what he did when he was a kid, and that's what inevitably leads
or didn't do as a kid, telling him stories about his dad. And I agree. I think Ralph has a little bit of built-in animosity, similar to what Christopher does towards Jackie for being a little spoiled. And they don't have it towards AJ. One, AJ's not old enough. Two, AJ's not trying to be in the family. Whereas Jackie just has this. I'm meant to be. I'm the heir apparent. I'm supposed to be here. I'm supposed to be this. So there's a part of Ralphie that I think too is like, you want in this business? Here you go. I'll help. Take this gun. Toughen up a little bit. Because Tony and Ralphie have a conversation about this later on. And Ralphie, I believe, says something along the lines of, the kid is spoiled. Rosalie spoiled him. He needed to toughen up. He explains that he was, trying to show him the way things were. So he gave him a gun to he doesn't actually answer the question, but that's what he's implying, that he's trying to just be like, okay, you want a gun? Get in the business. Here you go. Go make your bones. Get tough. Make some mistakes. You need to get punched in the face a couple of times so you actually come up the way I came up, hard. Because right now you're coming up easy because you're the heir apparent of the old boss. So you got to...
He's coming up like fucking Carmine Jr.
Yes, exactly. Not like the way Christopher did, like he thinks in his own head he's like. In his own head, Jackie's like, I'm like Christopher. I'm going to be made young because I really want it and blah, blah, blah. But what we know of Christopher since day one, even though Tony in the pilot calls him lazy, Christopher works hard. Christopher has worked very hard doing what he needs to do, even to the point of when the whole thing with Junior happens in season 1 and no, he doesn't advise Brendan not to do it, but he doesn't go. Like when Brendan's like, come on, we got to go rob Junior's truck again, which ultimately gets Brendan killed. Chris stays at home. You stayed at home.
Right.
Did you offer him advice? Did you stay at home? He did offer him advice, but he didn't stop him. And it's just a crank, Tony. It was just a crank. Oh, right. What about, everyone knows you're the boss since Jackie was the Kemosabe. And then he throws him through the window.
That face that he makes when he says the Kemosabe is like the most, I think there is resentment from Christopher toward AJ, but that's for different reasons. It's for the reasons that you just said, which is that there is a couple scenes with Tony when he's like, oh no, I don't want this life for AJ. He's too good for this. And Christopher's like, well, what about me? You wanted me? This life's good for me.
Yeah.
I'm not. But Tony gets around and is like, AJ couldn't handle this. He's a pussy, essentially, is what he says.
Yeah, I love when he says that in a Melfi session, I believe, too. When she's like, what about your son? She's like, AJ, in my business, he would never survive. Yeah. And that begs the question, though, if, I want to say Christopher, if Tony had a kid that was more capable, not a Fredo, had a Sonny or a Michael, to do the Godfather comparisons. And if you didn't see the Godfather, Matt, Don Corleone has 3 kids. One's a hothead but capable, one's an idiot, and one's young that ends up going to the army and ends up taking over the business.
Right, and doesn't want any part of it.
But eventually ends up taking over because he's he's the most he's the most capable, but he doesn't have the heart of his father. Fredo got the heart. He just got the stupidity. And actually, Sonny got a little heart too, but Michael didn't get any heart. Michael's cold as fuck and shit. But anyways, they all have elements of him. But if AJ had been more of a Michael or a Sonny instead of a Fredo, would he have had him join the business?
Yeah, but you're talking now is the chicken and the egg thing. Like, why is AJ the way he is?
Would they have cast AJ in that way if the actor got bigger? Did they cast a big chubby kid thinking that he would look like Tony eventually, or be as a teenager be big?
I think that it has nothing to do with the actor. My point is, like, would AJ have been a different person if he grew up around the family? Like, obviously he'd be very different. He would have seen different things. He would have seen a different side of his father he's never seen before. Tony watched his dad cut someone's fingers off when he was 9 years old. I mean, that's the stuff.
I guess what I'm asking, Matt,
explicitly kept away from Tony.
Is there any timeline alternative universe that AJ is a different person, more capable, that Tony allows him to join the family? Or
sure. But he's from day one has a completely different upbringing.
Right. So he's never in a position to be able to be capable of something like that. If AJ had gone in at the end, season 6, successfully went in there, didn't get caught, and stabbed Junior and like killed him, or done some assassination for Tony, like on spec or something, and came to Tony and be like, I want to be an assassin for your family now, or something like that. Like go all Arya Stark. I know you don't know what that means, but turns into like a little assassin. Went into the military school, came out of military school as a trained killer. As Carmela said, you're going to make him a trained killer? Like, had come. Start streaming again. And I'm back. Hey, everybody. Let's please let me know if you can hear me now. I was having some technical difficulties there for a second, and I might have been disconnected for a moment there. Maybe not, maybe so, but give me some thumbs up in the live chat if you guys can hear me right now. So the next episode we're talking about is called, I'm not sure what the next episode's called. What is it called? From Where to Eternity? Is that what it's called?
It is called...
And we'll be back in 2 weeks to talk about that episode. It's the next episode is the.
Hey, have I told you I'm having surgery in July yet, Phil?
Oh no, you have not.
Yeah, we got that going on at some point. I will probably be out for a week or so.
Okay, that is fine. I hope everything ends up all right.
Yeah, we'll talk more about that later. I don't even know why I'm bringing it up right now.
Oh no, because I was about to bring up medical stuff too at the end here. But World Rewind says Tony would have loved a tough guy son. The football scenes tell you everything about that. That's kind of what I was implying a little bit, World. That I think some part of Tony instinctually, without even letting it on, is disappointed that AJ is so helpless, is stupid, and can't really do anything.
Tony grew up on the streets, though. Like, that was who he grew up with. AJ's been sheltered from that, going to private school. This cushy life. And with, like, a mom who looks a million times saner than Tony's mom.
Different kind of crazy. So, I mean,
what am I looking up? The next episode.
Oh, no, I've got it. See,
let's chill to the next episode. We got the Telltale Moozadell. What's after that? And
we got To Save Us All from Satan's Power. That's a fucking name.
That's a long name.
That's a long ass name. So our next episode in 2 weeks is called To Save Us All from Satan's Power. We're gonna take a couple more live chats right now. If you got any last minute questions about this episode or anything about The Sopranos, please pop it in the live chat right now. Otherwise, like I said, we'll be back in 2 weeks from tonight for which would be today's the 1st, or is today the 1st or 2nd? This is the 1st. So
the 15th.
15th. We'll be back on the 15th. Will be probably the next thing you see on this channel. Will be Matt and I back on the 15th to talk about the episode before Pine Barrens. That's what we're gonna call it. The episode before Pine Barrens. And we will get in Pine Barrens before Matt goes into surgery in July, since we'll have that by the end of June. So we'll do the 15th, and then it's the 29th or something. So we'll pretty much be done with season 3 by the end of the summer, and be
a guy I used to work with, I guess, wrote a really great article about Pine Barrens. I got to read it, and I will forward it to you at some point.
Please do. And also, but we'll talk about this more next week too. We definitely want to get some people's voices in, some of our friends. I'm going to reach out to Craig. I'm going to reach out to Joe. I'm going to reach out to Alan. I'm going to reach out to The Walking David as well. We're going to maybe, because it's tougher right now to have multiple people on. So what we're going to do for Pine Barrens is I'm just going to try to get as many people. Maybe we might only have one. Maybe we might have 10 people in the live chat too. If you have anything to say about this iconic episode of The Sopranos, anything specific about your impressions of it, what you love about it, because I'm not saying it's my favorite episode, but I think if you poll most people that have seen The Sopranos, they would name this as one of their favorite episodes. And maybe the best overall ranked episode of The Sopranos. So please leave us some voicemails, 781-990-8509. You can call that number 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, with some thoughts about Pine Barrens. We're not going to talk. I know you probably don't have questions for Save Us All from Satan's Power next week. So if you want to leave some Pine Barrens questions, I'm going to mention this next time too. You got a couple weeks now. You got about a month to leave some Pine Barrens stuff. So Matt and I are both going to reach out to any Soprano fans we know and give out that voicemail. So if you're out of the country and you can't call, you can always email me a voice clip at igotissuesman@gmail.com, igotissuesman@gmail.com, or theissuesguy@gmail.com. Either one works, or if you follow me on Twitter or Facebook or something, you can send me an audio message in any of those places if you want your voice in to talk about the episode Pine Barrens. Because as much as Matt and I can talk about it, we can talk about everything we love about it, talk about how good Steve Buscemi does as a director, how amazing Michael and that Paulie and Christopher are, and Michael and Tony are in this episode, and how I think it's one of my favorite Bobby Bacala episodes, even in a couple of moments we have with him and Tony. And
that awkward scene of him trying to crack a joke with Tony.
And we've got my motherfucker. We got one of my favorite people in the live chat, one of my other favorite podcasting partners, and the host and I was gonna say owner, runner of one of the best channels here on YouTube, Teflon TV. If you haven't followed Teflon TV yet, make sure you do. If you watch The Mayor of Easttown, he just covered it amazingly all season. I binge watched the entire show based on him and LMR's suggestion. But Tony does some of the best reviews and content that is on YouTube. So if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to Teflon TV. He's gonna be doing the series Dark next on Netflix. And obviously always does some Song of Ice and Fire stuff, and I pop on there sometimes with Tony to pop up for random podcasts, After Dark streams, and occasionally on some Marvel stuff or some Game of Thrones stuff. And Tony pops over here too. He was on the previous stream on this channel. It says the Tuesday issues program if you want to hear some Tony on this channel as well. And he always pops over here for some fun stuff. But literally one of the best people out there, both as a person and someone. It's hard to say in this kind of world to say this, a true friend out here. So and he's so fucking close to 50,000 subscribers. So every single sub could count for him right now. So please, if you haven't already, subscribe to Teflon TV. So, and he said Jackie Jr. is like John Gotti Jr. Is John Gotti Jr. just as like dumb and in malapropisms and thinks he should own the family after that? I actually haven't done a lot of research about, I don't know too much about Gotti Jr., but I think most of the Soprano characters in some ways are based off of or analogous for some real characters in real life, in real basis. Even Tony Soprano is based on someone. Each of the Lupatazzi family is based on... Yeah, he was a complete fucking fool. Oh, dumbass fool. And also, Tony's another person. I'll ask Tony if he can do it as well. Maybe leave us a voicemail about Pine Barrens or the Sopranos in general. If you have something to talk about just in general Sopranos stuff as well, we'll make this a big show where we play a lot of voicemails and play a lot of other people's comments.
I mean, I'd have to think that at a certain point, it's almost like the story of like your grandparents wanting better for your parents and your parents wanting better for you. Like, you grow up with... It's like the American dream. You come here and like a few generations later, you get to a certain point. That at a certain point, once you've reached that pinnacle and you're that generation that like takes over a family, your kids are going to be too soft to do it. Like you reach that apex, you can give your kids this good life. That life doesn't translate to it because the people who succeed are like animals who grew up like struggling, doing all sorts of crazy, immoral, messed up stuff when they're young. And it's so when you get to the point where Carmine Jr. could be in charge, they're just not cut out for it.
Yeah, he's just a dumbass. He's like,
yeah, by the time you get there, you can't. It's not like royalty, where like once you're royalty, like being royal is like continues to work for you. Once you reach that like apex, you're not enough of an animal to hold on to that. Like hold on.
You've had it too easy, and on top of that, like Tony's saying in the live chat,
Tony's the one that made it. The one behind him isn't
Oh,
going to
no,
make it.
but like
his
Tony,
dad got him. Yeah, and it's like that's the thing, that next generation just can't hang with it.
and like Teflon TV staying in the chat as well, like smacked people in public right when he knew the feds were videotaping him, flaunted who he was in public. Those people too as well, when they're in that position, not only everything you said, Matt, they don't think in their own head a lot of the time, especially the ones that want to join their father's businesses. They think that they have the genetic makeup to be able to do what they did, even though they don't have the life experience. We had a similar, I've talked about this before, and I know maybe he turned into a good guy. I'm not going to mention family names, but we went to school with somebody that was sort of associated with Massachusetts.
Not sort of associated.
Okay, we went to school with the daughter of the boss of the Massachusetts mafia, which was an association with, I believe they had associations with the New York mafia. They were like a subset of the...
and Rhode Island. And
of like the
too.
Giannese family. I believe it was the Giannese family, but whatever. Okay, so the name itself, you would know if I said it, especially anyone that knows anything about the situation. Anyways, we went to school with the daughter. She was great, awesome person, never had an issue with her. The son, the junior, this guy, junior name, who ended up growing into an okay guy, in high school was a dink. From what I've heard, my cousins went to school with him, said he was a freaking dink. At one point in time, threatened the English teacher that failed him and said, I'm going to kill your family. Granted, that English teacher was kind of a piece of shit that used to sit the good-looking girls in the first row so he could look down their shirts. Mr. Kane. I'll say his name. Mr. Kane. He no relation to my co-host.
No relation to me. Spelled the same.
Spelled the same. But that guy, that dude was a fucking scumbag, twisted dude, Mr. Kane. Said some shit to JJ and GJ, whatever, said some shit to him, and he slammed his fist on the table in the middle of class, and said, your mother, your family, your daughters, your dog are all dead. Screaming at him in the middle of class. My cousin D was in class at the time watching it.
That's so funny.
And freaked out. And I guess that kid was an overall douchebag in high school because of that, being like, my dad's in charge of this and that and of other thing. Like, was kind of dinkish like that. So that kind of goes with what Teflon's saying about Gotti Jr. or Carmine Sr. or AJ Soprano later on when he goes to hang out with all of his little douchebag friends and they put the magnesium on the kid's foot and stuff. He was basically owning the fact that I'm Tony's son and yibbity yubbity yubbity. I don't know if he actually says yibbity yubbity yubbity, but
I don't think he does.
He might in an outtake. I think that was cut for time, Matt. But Teflon says he thought he was a celebrity, not realizing he was a criminal, and he didn't even know how to keep that stuff on the low. And that's the other thing too, that seemingly that these sons or these sons and daughters, these idiotic people don't seem to realize that they're actually criminals. They think they're above it. Whereas usually the people, unless you're dealing with, what was his name? Was Miss Colombo maybe? The head of the Colombo family who used to like to talk to the press a lot and like to be a celebrity. For the most part, the real people want to stay out of it. They don't want to. They don't want.
That was John Gotti's downfall. He loved to be.
Gotti was another one that loved the spotlight. There are gangsters that pop up from time to time that like the spotlight, but the good ones, the one that last their whole life in the business and only get taken down by the feds or maybe whacked or something, or even the ones that last forever, like the one Joey Pesci played in the Irishman, the guy that he actually visited the set of The Godfather and was the one that was like, take out all the mentions of mafia out of the script and give the money that the film is made for to Joe Colombo's Italian charity and stuff. Like that was Joe Colombo. That was the guy that wanted to be in the press. It wasn't that's the dude that sort of the other five families were pissed that Joe Colombo kept putting himself out there. But for the most part, the kids of all these people, of these good criminals, don't know like Teflon's first name's Tony, so I'm not saying Tony Soprano. Like, that's what Tony says in the live chat. He thought he was a celebrity and he's above the law. And I think Jackie Jr., to go back to this episode briefly, Jackie Jr. thinks he's above mafia law. Through this entire episode and through this entire series, he thinks he can get away from that sort of stuff because he's above it all.
Yeah. Do you know who my dad was?
Yeah. Do you know what I thought you were just about to say. Do you know who my stepdad is? Do you know who my stepdad is?
You do know who my stepdad
I do
is.
know your stepdad is. And if you wanted to rent something for free at any rent-a-center and in
What's funny is my stepfather used to do a ton of business with that son of the mafia film we were talking about. And I have a funny story where even as an adult, he made a similar threat to someone about burning their mother's house down, which is very funny.
And again, I want to talk through this because who knows if he points this in, we're literally in such a small town that we could get talked to in a bar after. I mean, you're out of state now, but
I'm out of state, man. I'm good.
I literally tell too many people about my podcast. Not that anyone watches my Soprano casts anyway. So out of all the shows on my channel, it's the one to talk about this stuff because no one's watching. Not as many people watch these. Anyways, so we're going to start to wrap things up here. Everyone, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Huge thanks to Mel. Huge thanks to Teflon TV for popping his head in here tonight. Jason Voorhees says, listen, Jimmy Hoffa came to the lake. Came to the lake. That's all I'm saying is his disappearance. Kill. Don't ask Jason Voorhees where the bodies are buried. You'll never see it. You'll never survive the day. You'll be done before you know it. Fucking ski mask wearing son of a bitch. We were just talking about you the other night, Jason Voorhees, how once you kind of got that ski mask, I think Teflon and I were talking. Hockey mask, yes. Once you got the hockey mask, you were a little less intimidating. Like in the second movie, when you were wearing that bag on your head, dude, I was so afraid of you. Not that I wasn't afraid of you later. I mean, when you became like Jason X and all that sort of stuff, that was pretty cool. Like you went up to the alien land, and now you're back to regular Jason after Freddy and Jason, and you're back to focus. But you know, you may think about putting the sack on your head with the one hole, because that's fucking scary, Jason. That's fucking scary. The hockey mask is iconic, but goddamn, that sack on your head is freaking scary. And you could run in that at that point. You hadn't lost your ability to run that you lost in later movies. So you were really scary in that second one, dude. So love you, Jason. Gotti was warned by some old school mafia dudes telling him to lay low too. And they would do the same thing with Joe Colombo. They tell him to keep it quiet. But Tony mentions that to Christopher at some point in time. They have a name for it, and I like it. They use the name for it in The Sopranos. He says cowboyitis. You got cowboyitis. You want to be an outlaw. You want to be a cowboy. And because it's true in the sense of, yes, Westerns are still a thing, but somewhere along the way, the outlaws and Westerns and shit like that became mafia gang type stuff, became The Sopranos and The Wire, that you would watch and appreciate that. Or
the casino, in the movie Casino, where they're literally talking about the
right.
Wild West, and Joe Pesci goes out there, and well, both of them, Sam Rothstein can't keep himself off TV. He loves being on TV in it, and Joe Pesci will not stop like just committing crimes everywhere he goes, and doesn't care how much attention he draws to himself.
I love how, if you guys haven't checked it out, good buddy of mine who I'm going to be having on the show sometime in the next couple of months, Nick Hodges from History Buffs, did a review on Casino about like the historical accuracy of it. Unlike Goodfellas, where it's pretty accurate one for one, Casino is more of a based on true facts, not a true story. But all that stuff with Sam about the television show and all that shit, the stuff that you would imagine wouldn't be real is all real. Like the real guy did that. He did a television show, dressed in pink. Had a lot of stars on it, like Frank Sinatra and shit like that. They would come on the show, and yeah, if you're curious of some of the historical accuracies of Casino, check out the History Buffs review. Jason Voorhees says, "Bag my groceries." Turns his head, put the sack, and they run. I love you, Jason Voorhees. Sometimes I can't even fucking finish your comments. So everybody, thank you so much for checking this out. If you haven't already and you enjoyed this, hit the like button and hit the subscribe button. Now, quickly, I will be gone for about a week or so. Matt and I will be back here next week. I did some posts.
No, 2 weeks. 2 weeks.
2 weeks on the 15th. We'll be back. But I will be kind of off the air for a week or so here. I might pop up in some other places, but for now, I'm basically, anyone who's been watching the channel for a while knows that about 6 years ago, I dealt with some health issues. Every year on the dot, I have to get my yearly scans, which is actually really awesome. I like that I get my yearly scans. but because I'm a normal human being that can deal with my own fucking paranoia.
All right, slow down with the normal human.
Okay, because I'm almost a normal human being, because I'm a paranoid Jew. Oy vey is me, I'm worried. I get it, because I'm like Carmela's parents. Listen, Hugh, we're going to get you a pager tomorrow. That's one of the things we missed in the episode when Hugh says,
oh, yeah.
You idiots with the
kids
pages.
Yeah.
And then the wife's like, I'm going to get you one of those next week. It's in the mail. But just dealing with some my health tests. I had my first set of tests today. I go back for some more tests tomorrow. And then it takes about a week and a half to get all the results and shit. And during that week and a half, I'm kind of usually a little schizoid embolism. Like, what's going on? A little quick to anger, a little quick to freak out. So I'm giving myself a little quick vacation. And also, on top of that, next week, Matt and I's good friend is coming in for the week to hang out. And so we're going to be doing some in real life stuff. He's going to take me out as a late birthday present. We're going to finally check out the casino again, and go out and have some fun.
There's a decent chance Phil ends up in jail.
It's or alcohol poisoning.
Yeah.
One of the two, possibly. But yeah, so I will be absolutely back very soon on the 15th, and maybe before if I end up getting my results. Sometimes I'll get the results early somehow, and I'm doing a web conference thing, so it's whenever they set the appointment. So whenever I get that all done with, I'll be back. But yeah, that doesn't mean I'm MIA. You guys need to message me privately if you're following me on any of the places. Please send me a message. But again, this Sopranos cast won't be interfered with. The basic only thing is this next coming week, probably there won't be anything more on the channel. Possibly, but doubtful, and I just want to announce the possible vacation right now. So, but got a couple of really fun collabs coming up. As I mentioned, History Buffs also have another one that I'll be on some other friends' channels that I haven't got to talk to in a while. I'm very excited to talk to those two guys. It has been a while, and obviously lots of fun shit coming up with Tony in the future too. And Joe and I will be back ASAP as well. We got to get some Joe rants. We just need to get something good for Joe to rant on coming up soon. So, Matt, anything else about this episode or The Sopranos you need to say, or any way you want to call me out or talk some shit about me?
No, my wife wants people to start following Michael Imperioli on Instagram. That's it.
Please do that, and please watch The Sopranos, the Talking Sopranos. Please, if you're on Twitter and you watch us and you like our show, at Steve Sharippa, get Phil and Matt on the podcast, or go on Phil and Matt's podcast.
Oh, I couldn't handle that, but I would sit here in awe.
I would love it. So, and I know Michael Imperioli never would, but we could. There's an alternate universe, just like we were talking about Johnny Sack, where we could possibly get Steve Sharippa here just to come here and tell us we're a bunch of fucking idiots for doing this. Like, he would literally go, "You guys are a bunch of fucking idiots for talking about a show you're not a part of." 20 years later, for 100 people a week. What the fuck?
He's not wrong.
He's not wrong. You're not wrong there.
No.
But we are doing that. We are talking to 100 people a week about a show that's 20 years old. About a show we have no part to do with it, though. And oh wait, Mel MC says, "Hey, Michael Imperioli follows me on Instagram." Then message him and tell him to come on our show.
Yeah, seriously.
Don't
tell him listen. Tell him we're doing Pine Barrens in 4 weeks. Okay. We're doing Pine Barrens in 4 weeks. That's the episode.
And we'd love a 2-second voicemail from him saying, "This was a good episode," and hanging up on us. That's it. I mean, don't do that. Don't ruin your follow by sending that message. But if you think you could do it, right. Like, I don't want him unfollowing you because of that. But if not, give him the phone number, 781-990-8509. I'll type that in the chat. 781. I have to say it while I type it because I can't chew gum and walk at the same time. Ask him if he could. Oh, you take his medication class? Awesome. So, yes, if you interact with them, be like, hey, they're the hugest Sopranos fans. They talk about Pine Barrens in a couple of weeks. Please, if you had even 10 seconds, please leave him a voicemail about anything. Telling them to quit. Whatever. You humor them, do whatever. Obviously, you don't have to do that, but I have to ask. I'm drunk enough.
I mean, definitely tell us you did, because we won't know any better.
Right. You by all means don't do it and tell us you did it. But if you do it, that's awesome.
It'll give us just a thread of hope to hang on to, that we'll get to meet Michael Imperioli.
Exactly. And that Matt's wife will finally finally.
I was gonna say she might have respect for me at that point.
Right, she'll
She'll
finally respect Matt for his
Yeah.
artistic abilities. So everybody, thank you so much. Thank you for the understanding, and thank you for all the awesome, nice likes, tweets, and follows and shares that you gave me for my post this morning, making sure I'm all right. I am all right. Knock on wood. It always gets a little in my head with this stuff because of the way it was all discovered before. You can even sell me on that one. I will let you know how it goes if I get a reply. You can even, I was going to say, you can even say, I was going to try to give you some heartstrings to do, but we'll forget that. He's dealing with some health news and he's waiting. He really could mean so much to him for you to call. No, I'm kidding. Don't say that. So everybody, we'll talk to you next.
Oh, really?
But really, if you think it will help.
Right.
It's true. It's not like I'm making it up. It's like, that's always one of my things. Like, when you have a real sob story, like to get on Survivor, like I always want to get on a Survivor or a reality show. Like, is it bad to use my sob story if it's a real sob story? No, I guess it's not.
No, not at all.
I'm not above playing the sick friend card. Okay, you can say that. Yeah,
Pete Davidson's whole career is based on a sob story. Like his entire existence is his one sob story. But it is a big deal.
I did have the pig. I did have the pig casino a few years ago, and I am dealing with health issues. I did just go through a divorce. I am feeling really bad, and it could really help and make my day better.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's all true. I mean, whoa, I just spilt my, good thing I drank all my alcohol because I just totally spilt my shot with my head on that one. Yeah. But Mel, thank you so much. By all means, like I said, take it with a grain of salt. Thank you to everyone that tuned in tonight. As I mentioned, if you haven't already, like us, subscribe, share the channel with a friend, help spread the word. We're close to that 14,000 number, so as much as you can share the channel to help get us over that number, and obviously help share these videos, because more than ever on YouTube, they don't necessarily send shit out. We need your help to spread the word. That goes for most creators out there that don't have over 200,000 subscribers. We really need your help to spread the word, because the way YouTube suggests stuff right now is inane. Also, if you're watching this and you're like, I like this shit, I want to know when you go live. Again, YouTube won't tell you. So go to my page, my Facebook page, click on that little bell and hit follow all, like all notifications. And that will let you know every single time I go live and doesn't leave anything to the imagination. Because otherwise, YouTube, honestly, they roll a dice and they roll a die and they decide whether they're going to tell you or not. So, yeah. Right now, it's about 9-10% of you that are subscribed to the channel that are clicked onto that. Let's try to get that number up. So make sure if you like us or you hate watch us, either one, and you don't get notified when we go live, make sure you click on that bell and make sure your settings are to all notifications. Anyways, Matt, I will talk to you in 2 weeks. Thank you, man. Talk to you guys sooner than that. Thank you for all the amazingness. Later.